Morning, everybody. This is Jared Keohan in Studio 49. I'd like to welcome you all to our Moving On webinar this morning. We are going to get started. I'll wager that what I have to say at the start of this isn't going to, nobody's going to really miss it. So you're all very welcome. Typically, under normal circumstances, we run a customer conference once a year. It was due to be held in March this year, but of course things changed. And we've decided to replace it with a number of webinars to highlight the work some of our partners are doing and to bring new technology and services to your attention. The last number of months have been an absolute whirlwind. It's been both an extremely difficult time for business in general and for retail in particular, but also a really interesting and rewarding time to be involved in e-commerce. This morning, I'm going to present some of the results we've seen from the impact of the COVID-19 lockdown period, but also, and more importantly, we're going to present some approaches to now capitalizing on all of the e-commerce activity over the past several months to increase customer engagement in this post-lockdown world. I know we have post-COVID-19 world on our slide. You can take that as a measure of our optimism this morning. Among the topics covered this morning, we'll hear from Chris White of Styla, a front-end experience platform, Alan Gormley of Shopbox, a recommendations engine geared towards opening up your catalogue to your customers, and our own Anik Dennehy, who will take you through her 4 steps for email marketing success. We'll finish with a Q&A session. If you'd like to ask a question, you can see the Q&A button at the bottom and towards the center of the Zoom controls on the webinar screen. We will answer all questions that we can at the end. If there's any additional time, and you're happy to keep going, we can try and answer any questions that come up. So for those that don't know us, Studio 49 specialize in e-commerce. In particular, we specialize in integrated omni-channel e-commerce in Ireland. Obviously, after the panic settled down in the middle of March, we realized that online sales were really starting to ramp up. They peaked significantly in May and started to tail off in June and July. During May and June, the retailers we work with were asking us if we were seeing similar sorts of results for other clients. So we decided to look at benchmarking sales figures to create a graph of what our customers were seeing across the board. This revenue chart that you're looking at now is one of the graphs we've generated. What we've done is to take sales figures for all clients who are targeting the Irish market for e-commerce, and we've averaged them to create a benchmark figure. The blue line is the benchmark for 2019. As a rule in Studio 49, we target 30% year-on-year growth for our clients. Many of the discussions we have are geared around that ambition, and our suggestions and research are all focused on figuring out how to grow sales and revenue over the course of the year. You can see a nice gentle upward trend in 2019 with the by now standard uptick for November and December. The green line, on the other hand, is 2020. And here you can see the extremely obvious and aggressive peaking of revenues in March, which was already stronger than Black Friday 2019. And the peak at May is nearly 4 times the Black Friday results for 2019. So this marks an incredible shift to and a reliance on e-commerce sales for both customers and for retailers. While the results have tapered off now, you will remark that July 2020 is still significantly higher for revenue than November 2019. What this is showing us is a phenomenon we've seen a couple of times over our own career here at Studio 49. It's a step change in behavior and attitude amongst the shopping public. The last major one was when Black Friday properly took off, and I think most of us here will remember the year that Black Friday really landed in Ireland when all of a sudden people were talking about it. Any retailer participating in online sales for Black Friday saw multiples of their previous best months and sometimes even a year's worth of sales within the period of just a long weekend. What happens after the step change, a step change like this, is that everyone affected lands somewhat higher up the shoreline, so to speak. After that Black Friday in 2016, revenues did of course taper back down, but where they started to level out again was much higher than where they were only months previously, and they stayed there and continue to grow year on year. Every year since, in fact, we've seen a small step change at the end of each sales period, where things started to level at a good result at the start of every year. And we're seeing a similar pattern here. And today's session is about how to capitalize on that phenomenon. We can see it in conversion rates. CR was already improving really well at the end of 2019 and coming into 2020. This, I think, was down to a lot of work that was done last year in mobile UX and site speed and performance. It was one of the key areas of improvement that we were working on. And we can see the results in January 2020 versus January 2019. But of course, conversion rate really took off in March, April, and May, and it was an indication of the much stronger intent of customers to purchase when they landed on the website. Equally, sessions increased dramatically, and interestingly, what you'll notice here is they haven't tapered off at the same steep rate as revenue and conversion rate. That indicates that people are now researching more online and probably checking sites for opening hours and information about how to engage with a retailer in the post-lockdown world. But interestingly, average order value has actually remained kind of static. It is even possibly slightly poorer year on year. Today, we're going to be talking about how to engage customers through great content on the site, through email marketing aimed at sending customers relevant content to encourage them to return to the site and to purchase again. But we'll also be talking about how you can attempt to improve this average order value figure to really maximize on revenues going forwards. One really great support that was made available during the lockdown was the Enterprise Ireland COVID response grant. I think it owed quite a bit to the lobbying on the part of Retail Excellence Ireland, who had opened the gates for Enterprise Ireland to start funding retailers towards the end of last year. And during the lockdown period, in the region of 180 retailers applied for and 180 retailers won and received an average of 35,000 to improve their online e-commerce presence. So it's really fantastic news that Enterprise Ireland have just this week announced a second round of funding that would see up to 160 retailers getting a grant for around 35,000 again. The closing date for this, for the applications is the 28th of September. Maximum funding is 80% matched for up to 40,000, which means you put in 10,000, they give you 40,000. There's 5.5 million available. And if you have any questions on this, we would be happy to try and answer them at the end of the Q&A session, but we would really strongly urge you to go forward for this grant. And now, without further ado, I'd like to get to the content, no pun intended, part of this webinar. Style are a partner of Studio 49 as of late 2019. They have a no-code content platform that empowers the e-commerce and marketing teams in your business to create a wide variety of content without the need for IT or the likes of Studio 49 to come in and write HTML and program the front-end user experience. It enables you to scale up with content production, and we've seen some really nice work being done recently with some of our clients. So I'd like to introduce Chris White, who will take over the screen and take us through what Style have to offer. Good morning, Chris.
Morning everyone. Thanks for the introduction, Gerard. But more importantly, thank you all guys for joining. Let me just put my screen on share here. There we go. So let me share a little bit more about kind of who Styler are firstly. We are, as Gerard did an excellent introduction there, we are a front-end experience platform specifically for e-commerce. So what does that mean? Well, Styler's no-code platform enables that non-technical person or people within your business to design and build content for your e-commerce store. So why is that important? Well, Forrester did a piece of research in the end of 2018, looking at the evolution of web CMS and some of the challenges around some of the CMS options in the market. And this is their view on kind of where it's going as well. So all of the e-commerce platforms in the market have some basic content tooling within it, but essentially you're typically fixed to some templates, and anything beyond that needs to be coded either by your in-house dev team or through your agency, which is hard to scale. Then along came kind of experienced CMSs like Amplience that sped up the kind of development piece within that. But it was still owned by IT and also really quite expensive for a lot of retailers. So it wasn't really quite attainable for many brands. Also, you may have heard of headless CMSs in the market. There's a lot of hype around this. They're a great option if you're a large organization with lots of offline and online channels and you have a large development team. to support this and maintain that, it's a really great option, but often quite a lot of overkill for many brands. But the main thing of what Forrester had identified was all of the current solutions in the market are developer tools, essentially. They're seeing a much more shift, not just in CMS, but in a lot of technologies, to this kind of more business user approach that is much faster to go through and test and learn around what works. So let's actually sort of see, what does that actually mean in reality? So here's actually a slide one of our clients did at E-commerce Expo in London last year, explaining that workflow challenge that they went through. This is actually from Holland & Barrett. They were taking about 12 weeks to build out a landing page for a campaign. And Jay, the head of development there, talked to the audience in London about kind of all the teams and all the people involved in it. So the kind of e-commerce and marketing guys would go, right, we want to do a campaign on this, go away, design it, brief it. Then all of a sudden the UX team gets involved, and then we need to reiterate that back to marketing. Then finally it goes off to some developers to go and build out those pages. Then it goes off for some review. And finally, about 12 weeks later, that page would be actually built up. Well, Styler they selected Styler because that just wasn't effective for them to be able to kind of scale up their content across all the different parts of their site. We remove a lot of those bottlenecks. So essentially, by empowering the kind of e-com marketing and creative people within your organization to be able to build out those templates, we can remove all of this process. And we've streamlined that out for Jay and the guys at Holland & Barrett to be able to do that in sort of within a week now, compared to 12 weeks. So it's all about simplifying that process and that workflow. So let's have a look at some of the customers that are using Styler to give you a bit more context and kind of what they're actually building. So here's an example from iClothing. These guys are on Magento. They were frustrated with the limitations in their kind of fixed templates. They invested in Styler so marketing could build out new home pages and campaign pages without using the developers or outsourcing to an agency. And since using Styler, they've seen a big drop in the bounce rates for Styler pages because they're sending them to really relevant landing pages like the one we're just looking at here. And that's a whole range of kind of inspirational kind of campaign landing pages, trend guides, buying guides. But they're using us right across the website here to remove those kind of challenges around the fixed templates. Here's another example from another Irish customer that you might be familiar of. This is from Pet Stop. Again, they were really frustrated with the fixed templates within Magento. They wanted to be able to kind of enrich and change their homepage on a regular basis without using the retainer that they had with their agency. And they also wanted to merchandise it and start doing something different. So again, this ability to kind of have these hotspots and merchandise parts of the homepage or any part of the site using Styler can all now be done in-house and in a matter of minutes and not weeks, days, hours. So here's another example from KPM, who are a German brand that's a kind of luxury porcelain manufacturer. They're also on Magento, massively frustrated again with the fixed templates. They wanted to enrich their category pages. And here in this example, they've injected some video content into that category page to showcase and highlight some of the heritage and the processes that are going through their really high-end product. So they've embedded there, or injected rather, a simple video slot here with some HTML beside it. That was all done within Styler within a matter of minutes. What they're actually seeing as well off the back of that is all of the traffic that's coming to the site and landing on a Styler page. They've actually done some research in the GA to say that customers that are coming via those pages spend twice as long on the site and view 3 times as many pages. So we can see there that the actual engagement side of things is really going up. So this is an example from Fielman. They are basically like Specsavers in Poland and Germany. They wanted to redesign their product detail pages and enrich them to make them a lot more interesting and visually appealing, essentially. So they tested building this page in their e-commerce platform. And then they also tested it in Styler, how quickly they could build that out. And in Styler, it took 1 hour to build out these product pages. And in their e-commerce platform, I'm not sure if it was Magento or Shopify, that was taking them over 18 hours. So that to build one page obviously doesn't seem like a too scary task in that 18 hours, but if you've got tens of thousands of products or even just thousands of products, building that out is going to take a lot longer than with a tool like Styler. And then from a marketing perspective, this will tie in really nicely with what Anik's talking about later from an email marketing perspective. Here's an example from North Sails, or a sailing apparel brand based out of Holland. Here they're promoting this landing page via email, via social, and they've also done this whole kind of shop the look within it as well. So really capitalize around, really trying to increase average order values, as well as reduction in bounce rate and engagement time and all the other kind of key KPIs that they're looking to build. Now, they had literally one designer. This was taking them about 8 to 10 weeks as well to build out these different pages. And now they're doing that on a kind of daily basis. They have their whole editorial section. So there's a lot more branded storytelling in there, all about them and the things that they support in terms of sustainability and things like that, as well as more product-based stuff here. So you can see within their editorial section, they've housed all this kind of rich content and made it easy for customers to find again once it's been used as part of that email and social marketing piece as well. The last example I wanted to share with you guys is an example from Odlo. They're using Styler for their blog and have essentially replaced WordPress. They have all of their stories here. And what they wanted to do is integrate a kind of shopping overlay and essentially change their blog into a trading platform. So through Styler, we can integrate through a product API and present this kind of shopping overlay. And we can do this across any part of the site, not just in the blog. But they wanted to kind of really talk about the stories and the events that they're supporting and mix product into those to really connect content and commerce in a really user-friendly way. The great thing that these guys have seen is actually this, now they've turned their blog into a trading platform. It's actually converting much higher than the rest of the site. They're actually seeing a 3x increase compared to site averages in conversion. So not just a great way to tell your story and integrate products throughout it, but a really great way to drive and capitalize on conversions, as Jared mentioned at the beginning there as well. So let's take a look at kind of how all of that's put together. So essentially here what we've got is, this is the Styler editor interface, and you would log in. It's a SaaS-based product. It connects seamlessly to your e-commerce store. You can see we've got different accounts here for different maybe regions if you're selling internationally, or you've got different users across the business. We can then also go and filter and find any content in here. Maybe it's in a list view, might be a bit easier to go and find your blog content versus your homepage stuff, or in this tile view as well, where you can kind of really quickly and easily see kind of what's what. So today we're going to show, so essentially what we're going to do is create a whole page, but you've also got the ability to create a blog story or the modular content where we've injected like video content or UGC into an existing page. We can edit, copy and delete any of these experiences. So if you've got a really great performing one, we can just copy it and maybe change out the assets. In this case, we're going to just do something around fashion. You can see on the right-hand side, we've got our canvas, and then on the left-hand side, all of our product modules, and we can just literally drag and drop them onto the page. This is the banner one. We go in and edit it. We can go and play around with any of the text. We can change it here from, if say this is a really popular autumn one, we can change this to spring, summer. We know the format works. It's received loads of engagement. Let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's go and change something that we know works. But here we can also start playing around with the layout as well without using any coding whatsoever. We also have presets as well. So if you have any custom CSS that you want to add later, that can be done through here. We can change any of the aspects, the width, the size, any of the positioning within this without using any kind of coding again. We can smart crop it. So our interface will actually start to remove any kind of white spaces if you want. And then we can also go into the advanced bits. Do you want different kind of fonts and text for your H1s and H2s for an SEO perspective as well? So now we've added a kind of banner. If we want to go and make something shoppable, a bit like the pet stop bit that we looked at a little bit earlier, all you need to do is select the asset. This can connect to your e-commerce store or a DAM, or you can literally just go and drag and drop the assets off a device straight into here. And then what we can do, you can see it highlights this, and we can drop the hotspot onto the image. That'll drop a pin on there, and we can do the same with the dress. And then through the product catalog, we link to your shop systems API. And then here you'd see the taxonomy like you would see in your website, but we can also do a keyword search here. I know this is a Reese product, so I'm going to search for Reese. But if you had like the SKU number or any kind of unique identifier, you're going to be able to go and find that product really quickly within your catalog. Alternatively, if you wanted to do something around a particular color or a particular brand, a keyword search could be a really quick and easy way to kind of start formulating what products you want to merchandise in that experience. So now we've dropped the hotspots in it. We've started linking that to the actual product catalog. We're going to do this with the dress as well. And you can see it's really user friendly. It's meant for the creative or design team within there or marketing people to be able to come in and use this tool really quickly, really easily to kind of start merchandising out parts of the website outside of these fixed templates. So now what we've done, we've added both of the products into that. We've merchandised that whole image to do the whole shop to look. We can then go on to start creating the rest of the experience here. So if we're going to, or we can also go back into, the parameters piece here. We can use then activate the interactive shopping layer. So the quick view or that pop-up layer there to then make it really easy for the consumer to make that purchase. Another module there, we've got the image module. So if we want to kind of put any, add any rich images to that, we can again use smart cropping, but we can also go in, replace those assets really quickly. We can have specific images, or we can search anything from your product catalog. So again, if we can really easy to select any of those assets that are existing within the business. If we want to then go and enable that for maybe a different image whilst we hover over it, or we can add any text across that image, or if we want to do the alt titles from an SEO perspective, we can add those in really easily as well. So now we've kind of enriched that image. We've added the SEO tag in there. We've added a caption for the edit, and we're going to change that now to the spring summer, so it's all in line with the rest of the experience that we've started building. And then if we wanted to kind of add any kind of other text in there, it's easy. We just drag and drop that across. And similarly with the video content, a bit like KPM, we work with YouTube and we work with Vimeo. All you need to do is drop the link into that, and then we've got some parameters here that we can enable within it. We refresh that, and then your video content will be built into the experience. If I wanted to do something a bit like the KPM example where we had video and text side by side, we can then start playing around with the layout. Do we want them evens? Do we want the video to be slightly bigger than the text? We can set around sort of alignment, the width, the spacing. All that can be done really easily from the control panel here. So now we've got the video and the text all blended in together. And if we want to add in a kind of dynamic piece of content with a product slider that could be made from any kind of recommendations engine, whether it's Shopbox or Nosto or any of the personalization tools in here, we can then start personalizing that content as well. In this case, we're not linked into a personalization engine in our demo account, but what we can start doing is creating these kind of sliders in different formats and start merchandising this really quickly, really easily, and in a number of different formats as well. So this is one of my bugbears was the kind of standard just product slider, and we've kind of taken that to the sort of next level where you can have a lot more control over what those recommendations are, or do you want to just leverage your personalization tool to feed into Styler and recommend the products based on any kind of behavioral data or cookie data that you've got on them? But in this case, we're just going to do a standard product slider today to kind of show you how you would merchandise that and how you would add in all of these products. As you can see, it's very similar UI to all of the different modules. So it's, again, once you've learned how to use one of the modules, you can really easily use all of them. So now we've selected a load of assets to create that product slider. And now we're going to upload that into the experience. So you have to give it a second while it does that. We can see now that we've added all of these products in. We're going to now maybe add a couple more, or should we just, yeah, you can see now we're going to add in a couple more just to go beyond just the standard 3 product slider that you see on a lot of websites. You can add in up to 15 different products with any kind of slider here within using Styler. So again, we're just going to add in a few more so we can then show off some of the different looks and feels that you can actually add to this. So now we've kind of got in, I think, about 10 or 12 different products there. So update that. You can see now when we move over, now those assets are going to be added. You can see on the left-hand side, within that product slider, we've got a whole host of different products. And now we can start playing around within the settings section here around the actual layout of it. So do we want it as a standard product layout? Do we want that in a kind of tile format? Or do we want that in the kind of collage look that's really popular on, say, Instagram and other channels, other social channels? We can then mess around with the kind of actual number of columns we want in there, what's going to work really well on mobile. Can we show some of those controls as well? Can we get rid of some of the white space automatically? Can we provide the pricing, any reviews? And most importantly, do we want to activate the shopping overlay within that? So now what we've done is we've created a whole page between the header and the footer within Styler. And now what we want to be able to do is also personalize that content as well. So if you're using a personalization tool like Nosto or one of the many others out there, Shopbox, are providing segmentation data of your users, we can then start building out different versions of that homepage or different versions of campaign pages or any other part of the site based off of any user behavioral segments that you've got. We can also then segment that and show different types of content for different devices as well. So we really want to help customers and retailers make sure that they're taking advantage of the mobile kind of journey and the most out of their mobile traffic as well. So you can really customize the mobile journey and the desktop journey. So here we go. Here's a preview of it. Here we've merchandised that page. We've kind of got the shopping overlays in there as well. We've got the hover over images. We've kind of got our whole kind of shop the look piece as well with our carousel here too. And we've also probably got in there some video content at the bottom with your text next to it. So all of that was built, and I'm no designer, unfortunately, but all of that was built in just a few minutes. So then once you're happy with that, in terms of that kind of design and layout, then it's all about how do we go through and sort of go to kind of make sure all of the widths and the spaces are kind of you're happy with, and then we can literally then go to preview and actually go to publish. Then it's really simple. Select the URL path of which page you're publishing it to, give it a title, and then you can actually schedule that to activate at a specific time and come down at a certain time. And also final touches for adding in any SEO examples or metadata in for it as well, and then hit publish. That'll land into your Shopify store, Magento, or any of the others within about 3 to 5 minutes. So that's the demo. And in terms of quick overview of how that would look with some of your other investments into e-commerce, this is kind of what it looks like in terms of the architecture. Typically, we work with all of the shop systems in the market. If you've got a bespoke shop as well, don't worry, we can integrate with that too. And essentially, we're going to sit on top of that website to provide that front-end experience layer. But then where we really set ourselves out from a lot of the competition is our open API. So you can then start linking in personalization into the content. You can start automating maybe some of the marketing effort around that as well, testing, UGC, and it can be any partner from any of your different third parties that you're using. We can plug in generally via our API to optimize that. Q&A, I realize we're doing it at the end. So thank you very much for listening to me and to Styler. Please fire any questions you've got throughout this. There's the little Q&A piece at the top there. Please fire your questions, and hopefully at the Q&A at the end, we can answer all your questions.
Thanks very much, Chris. Spotlight just on the Q&A piece. You can ask the Q&A at any time. The questions just come into, at the moment they come into Kevin. You can see he's answered a couple that have already come in. If the questions are for if they're for the end of the session, we will put them at the end, but we'll answer anything that we can answer live as well. We have a very nice offer from Damien Rooney in Pet Stop. As you saw, Pet Stopper have started using Styla, and he's offered that if anybody needed any further advice in Styla to contact him, and the email address is in there as well. So thanks very much for that, Damien. Also, we've been asked whether the slides will be made available. They will be made available. We'll send them around by email, and we should also have a recording of the session at the end. Next up, we have Alan Gormley of Shopbox. Excuse me. So Alan Gormley, I have his little blurb here. For 20 years, Alan, Shopbox founder, has been at the forefront of advanced analytics and AI for customer experience. For 17 years, he led European practices for SAS Institute, the largest AI technology provider globally, where he worked with some of the largest clients across Europe. Now, Shopbox for Studio 49 is a new partner, but it's one that we're very, very excited about. We started talking with Alan at the start of 2020, pre-COVID, when we had a number of different plans around how we were going to do marketing this year with our clients, email marketing, personalization marketing, and things like that. And I suppose personally, I've always been uncomfortable with the fact that traditionally e-commerce has been akin to leading a customer into a white box of a room with nothing but a single product on a plinth at the center of the room, and asking the customer to decide their size, and then ushering them post haste through the checkout. You know, thou shalt not browse, thou shalt not view any other products. There was a real kind of, it's not really the shopping experience, not really how retailing is meant to work. In a retail store, the product and what's on view is merchandised. The product around the customer is chosen to be similar or to style with the product the customer is presently looking at. Shop assistants engage with the customer to offer other options or ideas. And Shopbox goes some way to bridging this gap online. We've already seen some really interesting results with respect to the impact on average order value during COVID-19 lockdown. And now I'd like to introduce or to invite Alan to tell you more about this. Alan.
Thanks, Chair. I think I'm unmuted there, am I? Yep. Okay, I see heads nodding, so I presume I am. Okay, I'll just flick over to my slides. And so guys, thanks very much, Chair, for inviting us to talk today. Just give you a bit of background. That 17 years in SaaS is really interesting. So SaaS, you may not have heard of. When I left, we were a $4.5 billion company, and all we did was AI. So artificial intelligence is talked about today as if it was invented 5 years ago. It's been around for a long time. So for instance, the first client.
Sorry, Alan, just very
sorry?
quick. I don't think we're looking at your slides yet.
Oh, sorry.
If you wanted to share your screen.
Sorry, guys.
Please have stopped chasing me now so I can.
Sorry, Kevin, I'm sure your inbox is dying because of that. So basically the first customer we had in the UK was Marks and Spencer's back in 1980. So this stuff has been around a very long time. And we work with people like Metro, we work with Fnac, Marks and Spencer's, John Lewis. I'll talk a bit about John Lewis earlier on because they're quite an interesting company from this perspective. And people of that caliber. So, and the thing we saw over the years was that we're extracting huge value out of artificial intelligence. And don't worry, I'm not going to go and talk about maths. I'll put it in context in a minute when we look at what it looks like to a consumer. But the problem with the value is that it takes a long time to realize that value. It's big, heavy software. It involves big teams, multi-skilled teams. And it was only really the big customers who could take advantage of us. That became a real frustration for us. So when we set up Shopbox, our focus was taking all the good stuff that comes from artificial intelligence and saying, can we wrap this up in a way that it can be just dropped into a site and within a few days we can start to see some results. Okay, so that's the whole modus operandi for everything we do is we got to make value happen fast and we got to make it happen with the least barriers to entry we can possibly have. Okay, before I jump into the slides, there's one thing I'll say around the COVID-19 thing. So obviously we've seen a big shift to online. Now, from an e-commerce perspective, that sounds good. There's one statistic I saw, and there's a few supporting ones around it, which is kind of scary, which is the big guys, the Amazons, our growing market share. So while people are moving out of the shop onto online shopping, we got to keep them, because if we don't keep them, they're going to migrate off to the big guys, as we've seen happen so many times. So really everything we're about here is build a firewall around the shop, and as people come in, we need to try and keep them, and we need to engage them much further and much deeper. Okay, so I'll give you a bit of background, then we'll have a look at what it looks like live, and from there I will come back and put some stuff in context at the end. Okay, so when we looked at this, we looked at what is online really good at and where is it deficient. And I think Jer really alluded to this well when he talked about the plinth. We're actually really good at choice and convenience. So we show thousands upon thousands of products, way beyond what anybody could show in a normal shop. And it's very convenient. However, the one place it's deficient is in curation. So when I walk into a normal high street shop, somebody actually uses data to assess me. They look at me, they look at the people I'm with, they look at what I'm wearing, they look at what I'm looking at, and they give me really good advice to help me, not towards one product, but towards a selection of products and things that might be not quite exactly what I came in for, but would fit the purpose just as well, or better, or cheaper, whatever it might be. Okay, so that part is missing. And what we've really seen over the years is, if we don't curate for customers, they're going to curate for themselves. And what that means is they're moving back from the website, they're looking across the internet, and they're nearly using the shop as a comparison site and for fulfillment, but they're not staying in the shop and really getting engaged and having a shopping experience within the shop. They're having it outside the shop. Now, the people who have really latched onto this and done amazing work in this is the people who are brilliant with customer. They're the Facebook and Google, the people who have really deep understanding of customer. And the problem that's introduced for us is, while we use them as an acquisition engine, which is great because they send us very good traffic, they're learning more about our customers as our customers interact with them than we're learning about our customers. And we got to change that. I'll give you a very simple example. When you acquire customers through Facebook, it's great that they come to the site. However, that Facebook pixel that's sitting on the site is tracking what they're doing and what products they're looking at. When that customer leaves, that data is being used to put that customer back into the competitive pool and sell it to whoever is prepared to pay for it. So we can't stop them doing that, but it's a difficult thing for us to grapple with. So we've got to try and make sure when somebody does land on the site that we stop as many of them as possible going back directly into Facebook and keep them coming back to us and try and build more value out of our own customers. Okay, so that's a bit of background on kind of where we come from. What I wanted to do is quickly show you an example, and then we'll come back and wrap up. Okay, so let me take you through. I'm going to use DID Electrical. So DID, you guys all know, DID has been working with us for a while, and I'll just, get rid of the windows so I can see the thing. Okay, so the scenario here is that somebody's come on to the site, they've gone to technology, and technology is a fairly generic area on the site. Okay, so when somebody lands, if I haven't been here for a while, DID have no idea what I'm looking for. So they can't show me everything in one screen. So they put a lot of variety in, which is great because I can see the broadness of the catalog. The issue is, if I want like the camera here, I got to really scroll to find other cameras, or I've got to use filters or whatever else. So it's kind of distracting me from what I'm doing, which is browsing. As Jer said, it's kind of taking me to that plinth. Okay, so what we do with Shopbox is this Find Similar button is us. When you click on this, this is essentially a visual search. Okay, now in the background, this is taking every product in the catalog and scoring them along loads of different dimensions using that artificial intelligence engine. You don't need to worry about that. We worry about that. And it's presenting products that feel like they look like the right product for that customer. So we can see here, it allows us to start browsing rather than just selecting. And we can interactively browse there and see more and more products as we go through. Now, a couple of important points here. When people talk about personalization, they're generally thinking about telling a system that this camera looks like this camera. That's not what we're talking about here. This is a fully automated system that learns by itself. That's really important. So as new products come onto the product catalog, they're automatically included. Okay, you add new stuff on tonight, it's there tomorrow morning. You add it on this morning, it's there this afternoon. So it means that as the catalog grows and shrinks and morphs and price changes, the engine learns automatically. Okay, so it takes a lot of cost out of and a lot of bias out of it. If we tell an engine how to work, we're building our own biases in. This is about understanding what the client is interested, the consumer is interested in, rather than what the marketer is interested in. Okay, there's another nuance here, is why we do it in page. We did a lot of research on how people browse and where the friction points are in the shopping journey. And one of the things is moving back and forth on pages. It's not a good experience for people. But the other thing is, we found people got distracted and forgot why they came in the first place. Now, we don't want to stop people shopping. What we want to do is distract them in a way that helps them to shop more. Okay, so for instance, if I was interested in that, but it's not actually what I came for, I can continue on my journey and go and look at something like cameras or watches or whatever it might be. And if I'm interested in one, then I can just click through and go through the normal shopping experience. So it's a way of taking a lot of friction out and using that visual search to allow people to see a lot more product. You can see it actually follows people around here, but it tries to be discreet. So we're here, we want the feeling of a shop assistant that you can ask at any time, but they're not there bugging you, okay? Now what I'm gonna do, just the last thing I'm gonna touch on, if I had left DID and gone away for the weekend and come back, or I'd gone to competitor sites, when I come back, this little welcome back dialogue is really important. This was one of the biggest friction points we saw when we did our original research with consumers around how they shop. They shop, they come, leave, come back, and they have to go and find the products themselves again. 9 times out of 10, they can't even remember what products they looked like. For us, we do this slightly differently. So what we do here is we allow people to continue shopping from within the home page. So that interactive dialogue becomes really important. People can go back and say, okay, so yeah, I was looking at that stuff, but it was actually this watch I was really interested in. Let me find more watches that are similar to that watch. Found me a couple more, and I can click through and continue the shopping experience. We're seeing on this dialogue, people who interact with it at all, about 70% of them continue to shop, actually use the dialogue to do their shopping, which reduces the amount of effort they need to go through to get through to products and to searching and everything else. Okay, look, that's just a quick view of what it looks like to consumers. There's a few other things, but it gives you a flavor for some of the things we're doing. Now, what I want to come back to is why this is important. And one of the things that can really get in our way is people look at making recommendations as being the end game. It's not even close to the end game. Okay, we got to look at the best, and the elephant in the room here is Amazon. On the left-hand side there, this is what my page looked like about 2 weeks ago. There isn't one element on here apart from gift cards that has not been completely personalized for me. What's really critical here is they're not using the last thing I looked at. Okay, Amazon, that camera equipment at the bottom, I haven't touched camera. Shopbox has taken up a lot of time. I haven't time for photography at the moment. It's been over a year since I looked at camera, but they know there's an anniversary coming up that's to do with something that happened a year ago. So they have a very, very long view of consumer, and they are constantly milking that journey to try and find more and more ins to try and expand product. That's which is really important for us. That's at the core of what we're doing. We look at somebody like John Lewis. The reason I talk about John Lewis is they were a very, very large SaaS client when I was back in SaaS. They have an excellent AI team, but they still struggle to get it in the right place in the shopping journey, okay, because they're viewing it from the wrong perspective. So for instance, no matter how much you shop for a particular product on John Lewis, the homepage will never, ever reflect that. It will always sell you what the marketer decided this morning needs to be shown on that homepage, which is a huge waste of very important real estate. Really, their team is focused on, if you're looking at this product, here's 3 other products, which is fine, but one of the reasons we built in interactivity is we found consumers aren't often interested in those 3. They want to browse, they don't want suggestions. Okay, just a quick couple of minutes and then I'll wrap up. So if we take all that together, what we're really talking about here and the way we define it is what we call purchase path management. This is not about the session, and it's not about the product, and it's not about the click. This is about the fact that consumers take time to buy products. It can take them days or weeks to decide what they want, and they go through multiple stages. So what we have built and what we continue to extend is components that make it easier for consumers at each stage, so more of them move on to the next stage. So for instance, in research, that visual search is really powerful in research. We've seen people seeing a lot more products. And what's really interesting here is if we look at the stats, we look 24 hours after people land, many more of them are engaged and come back to the site. So they move through that first stage where we've actually piqued their interest and they actually want to shop with us. Okay. If we look at consideration, that little dialogue that allows me to very quickly see substitute products, that's really powerful for allowing people to start to hone down on the products they're seeing without getting down to that plinth of one, but giving them some space to work in. So more of them move on to the purchase. One of the critical friction points we've seen in purchase is that last decision of, yeah, I like the product, but is it actually the best one I can get for my money today? People tend to go off to Google and do a search to see if they could have got a better price somewhere, or if there's a newer model or whatever it might be. What we're finding with Shopbox is about 70% of people who are using it for that final check to make sure that they're looking at the best version of what they want. And the last thing, Anika is going to be talking about email, is we want to open up all the intelligence we're gathering to outside systems. So email integration to grow customers afterwards and personalize everything they see is really important for us, because we don't want it to be a closed system where it only does what we've designed, but it can be opened up to everything. Okay, with that in mind, I'll just wrap up by saying our goals and our modus operandi is all around removing barriers. So for us, that starts with cost. Cost for us is something that there shouldn't be major upfront costs in anything we do. So we try to simplify that with a simple license. Complexity and skills are the biggest thing. There's a huge skills shortage in what we do, and it is extremely difficult to get people. And the people like John Lewis suffer from the fact that they have to integrate it with back-end systems in a very complex way, just because of the way they approach it. We approach it a bit differently. And the last thing is value. The reasons those dialogues are so important is that these are identified areas and proven areas that move people through that funnel in a much more efficient way. So we're not testing a lot of stuff. What we're doing is we're implementing things that we know work elsewhere. Okay, look, that's as much as I want to show you. I hope that's of interest. It's really exciting time, and we'd love to talk to people. If this piques your interest, if it's something you'd like to see how it might fit with you, please do drop me an email or give me a call. I'd love to have a chat with you. Thanks very much, Gerald. Hand back to you.
Thanks very much, Alan. I hope everybody can see, why we've been so interested in the work that Alan has been doing. I think it fits in really, really well with the ambition to merchandise a site and to add the possibility for customers, to browse the website, but also to increase the average order value. As you might have noticed, as Alan was going through his pitch with the ID, many of the products that were being offered as similar products to the webcam were actually more expensive. And so, I think it's a very standard piece of psychology, where if you see a product that is 39 euros, one that's 49, one that's 59, and one that's 69, you're more likely to purchase at least the one that's 49 or 59 than the product that's 39. So even showing customers other products that are slightly more expensive, not necessarily the most expensive version, helps to increase the average order value. Anyhow, thanks very much, Alan. I just changed my video. Sorry, I didn't realize I wasn't on there. I'd like now to introduce you to Anik Dennehy. Following her master's in digital marketing, Anik joined the Studio 49 team to focus specifically on email marketing. I'm personally convinced that email marketing will unlock a lot of revenue for our clients, and I believe it is still a very underutilized area of digital marketing. It is with this in mind that we hired Anik to lead our approach and services for email marketing. Today, she's going to take you through her 4 steps for email marketing success. This is the same approach we use and which we've seen great results with already. Anik, I'd like to hand over to you now.
Thanks, Ger. I'm going to share my screen now. Hello, guys. So as Ger said, my name is Anik, and I'm the Digital Marketing and Growth Executive here at Studio 49. And today I'm going to bring you through my 4 steps to success, specifically in email automations. First, before I get into it, I'm just going to describe it quickly, just in case anyone doesn't know what it is. So email automations basically do exactly what they say in the tin. They are emails that are automatically sent out based on how a user behaves with either your website or the emails that you previously sent them. Before I jump into the 4 steps to success, I just want to mention some important facts about email. Firstly, unlike the other channels, email marketing is more of a marathon and not a sprint. Once you get your email foundations established, these will consistently serve you as your business grows. Yes, over time, the tactics marketers use and the type of content that customers are attracted to might change, but having basic aspects such as automated email in place will benefit your business to no end. But I suppose the big question is, why should we focus on email at all? So this is just information that we've taken from a Wolfgang KPI report. So as can be seen here, email outperforms social in both driving traffic to your website and revenue generated. So 9% of website traffic on average comes from email and 7% of revenue. With these figures in mind, I'd like you to consider your own brand. Look at your digital marketing strategy, and when compared to the effort and the budget that you put into your social media channels, do you think you do the same with email? Over the years, there's been a lot of talk that email marketing is dead or a thing of the past. But what we believe that if you increase the performance of your email marketing, it can become one of the most important digital marketing channels that you have for your e-commerce business. In recent months, with the big change and the onset of COVID-19, do you think the impact of email has changed? So one of our main email marketing platforms that we use here at Studio 49 is Klaviyo, and they've kindly provided us with some interesting global statistics in relation to email marketing and COVID-19. As you can see here, email-driven revenue is up 86% compared to pre-COVID. Open rates have increased by 22%, email clicks have increased by 43%, and revenue per recipient is up 60%. These are figures really which can't be ignored and indicate that the already powerful marketing channel of email has further increased in impact since the onset of COVID-19. So now, how can businesses take steps to harness this channel's potential? We would recommend starting with email automation. So regardless of the email platform you use, whether it be MailChimp, OmniSend, .digital, Klaviyo, Campaign Monitor, and the many others that are available, you should all have access to automated email workflows. Getting started is relatively straightforward, and these next 4 steps should hopefully get you well on your way to achieving success through automation. So step 1 looks at data capture. Step 2 focuses on segmentation. Step 3 covers potential automations that you can implement. And step 4 will go through the optimization of these automations. So step 1. Firstly, it's important to consider data capture. So email data capture basically is the process of collecting email addresses from website users with their consent to receive marketing. There are a number of different methods that you can use to collect email addresses on your website. So we're going to take a look at some examples. So firstly, we have the embedded sign-up boxes. These are usually found at the bottom of the homepage or in the footer of a website. It's important that you ensure that you have one of these on your website because it gives customers the opportunity to sign up at any time, no matter where they are on the website. They can scroll down and go to it, or they can jump back to the homepage because they know it's always going to be there. Next, we have dedicated landing pages. These give you the chance to inform website visitors about the email content that you would send them if they were a subscriber. This page can be filled with information about the products that you sell, the benefits to them if they become a subscriber, and some easy sign-up fields. Next, we have pop-ups. So websites commonly have these pop-ups as they're just a quick way to remind customers to sign up, but can be easily X'd out of if needed. These pop-ups can be incentivized, similar to a 10% discount that's offered in this one. This incentivization really is just a very small price to pay for a direct channel to a regular contact who's a warm lead. Lastly, we have interactive forms. These are a unique way of capturing the attention of website users. They can include a gamification aspect, such as the spin the wheel one here. Basically, they encourage users to engage and submit their email address in exchange for playing the game. Data capture, really, it's going to be different for every brand. Of course, it would be great to collect as much relevant information as possible with the initial sign-up form. But at the same time, asking too much information can prevent a potential subscriber from signing up to your list. If you take a look at this form here, if I had a business and I asked you for your name, your email address, your birthday, location, clothes size, shoe size, favorite color, and your phone number, you'd start to feel this is all a bit intrusive and overwhelming, and you'd more than likely exit that form, and that's not what we want. I would suggest adding one simple sign-up question to a form, and this will empower your business to develop 2 sets of emails to start with, each customized to the interests and goals of customers. So for example, if I had a business that sold paper And my two customers are people who buy paper for work purposes, like printing, and those who buy paper for arts and crafts. They're two totally different customers. So having a simple question in my sign-up form that basically finds out their paper usage means that I can pop them into segments, and therefore the emails that they receive going forward will focus on their needs and wants from my paper selling business. Whatever information you decide to collect in your email sign-up can be used then in the ongoing process of segmentation. Email segmentation allows you to organize your contacts into different groups so that you can then send them targeted emails that are more relevant to those subscribers. 39% of marketers who practice this segmentation see better open rates, and 24% see increased sales leads. So there are many different ways that you can segment. The four main categories that we would use for segmentation include demographic, purchase data, behavioral, and technology. With demographic, this could include things such as age, gender, geography, or date of birth. By capturing something as simple as someone's date of birth, you then have the ability to make them feel special with an email on their birthday. And not only is this a great way of improving customer relationships, but it's also been found that these birthday emails can generate 342% higher revenue than a standard promotional email. The next segment category would be purchase data. This looks at the customer's previous purchases on your site and can create segments accordingly. So purchase data could be something such as average order value, and this can be great for creating things such as like customer tiers within segments. So you could have a high average order customer segment and then a low average order customer segment, and then you could send each of these groups emails that include products that fit their budget. Next, we have the segment of behavior. So this looks at data about the user based on their past behavior with either your site or emails. This could include segments such as pages viewed or last purchase date. By having subscribers whose last purchase date was, say, months ago fall into a lapsed customer segment, means that we can trigger emails to be sent to this segment, which then inspire them to come back. These are known as win-back emails, which I'm going to discuss a little bit later with the automations. Finally, we have technology. This can put users into segments based on the device they use, their browser preference, or their subscription status. So knowing insights such as their device can be really helpful when you're trying to optimize email design. So now that we know what segments can be created, let's look at one in action. So here are Adidas. They have a great example of how simple segmentation can be used to personalize the emails that land in a subscriber's inbox. So through their data capture, they found out the gender of their subscribers and added them to segments accordingly. At a later point, when they were sending out promotional emails for their new collection launch, they were able to send their women's collection to their female subscribers and their men's collection to their male subscribers. And this type of segmentation can be used within automated emails to make sure that your subscribers feel that they're getting regular personalized communications from your brand. So now we can take a look at what type of automations that you can send. So as I mentioned earlier, automations are emails that are automatically sent out based on how a user behaves with either your website or the emails that you've previously sent them. Automations can be set up to target a user no matter where they are in a customer lifecycle. As you can see from this lifecycle graphic here, there are an extensive number of automations that can be set up to connect with new customers, existing customers, and lapsed customers. Each triggered email series you set up can reach a customer when they're most likely to convert, leading to an increase in your customer lifetime value and your overall email marketing return on investment. Of all the automations that can be set up, we would suggest to start small and then build them up. So these are the three automated series that we believe are best to start with. First, we have the Welcome series, which aims to build brand loyalty with new subscribers. Next, we have the Abandoned Cart series, which aims to increase conversions. And then thirdly, we have the Win-Back series, which aims to improve customer retention. So first with the Welcome series, often we see businesses that just have one simple welcome email that says, thanks for signing up, and then it offers little else to the subscriber. As can be seen from this statistic, a series of emails yields 51% more revenue than a single one. Here at Studio 49, we build a series of 5 automated welcome emails. These 5 welcome emails put you in control of how your subscriber is introduced to every aspect of the brand. This initial interaction contributes to the goal of building brand loyalty with these subscribers. So let's take a look at the basic structure for this welcome series. To start with, it's important to deliver on any promised incentive. So if a discount code or a spin the wheel prize is offered in return for an email address, it's essential this is offered as part of the first email they receive. Then we go on to introducing ourselves and establishing expectations for email communications going forward. In this example, we have Liz Earle, and they've taken the opportunity to convey their brand's philosophy. This could be different for every brand, so you could tell your brand story, you could talk about your heritage, or simply you could lay out to subscribers what they should expect from you guys going forward in regards to email communications. In the third email, we provide subscribers with helpful information about the brand, such as their social channels or maybe some blog samples. This encourages subscribers to connect with you on other channels, which benefits them with more regular updates, and then benefits your business with an additional marketing channel to target them on. Our fourth email promotes products. So this could include collections, bestsellers, and product categories to ensure that subscribers know of all the goods that your business has to offer. Finally, we have our information email, and this looks to answer any frequently asked questions subscribers might have about topics such as maybe your store locations or your click and collect options or delivery or installation service that your brand offers. This final email is very dependent on the type of business you have and what you think your audience might want to know. So next let's look at the essential abandoned cart series. These are used to re-engage customers who have nearly converted but left some items in their cart. As you can see from this figure here, the average conversion rate for shopping cart abandonment is 10.7%. With such a figure, really, an abandoned cart series is a must-have for any brand. These emails are just looking to nudge that customer over the line, and content-wise, they're very short and sweet and have a very clear call to action included. But what are the reasons that customers abandon carts, and how can you address these within this email series? So as can be seen here from this BayMed survey insights, there are a number of reasons why consumers abandon their carts. Some of these need to be resolved through user experience improvements on the website. Some of these are outside of our control, but the two that I've highlighted in red here, extra costs are too high and didn't trust the site, are pain points that can be addressed within our abandoned cart series. So we would recommend creating a series of 3 abandoned cart emails. Again, each of these emails will have a set purpose. The first of the 3 emails in the series is simply sent to remind the customer of their abandoned items. It has a clear call to action of return to cart, but can also offer methods of communicating with the brand if they have any questions or reservations about a product. The second email in this series, again, looks to remind the customer of their expiring basket, but can also include alternative products to encourage them to further browse. And our third email is kind of our last chance to convert them. So as we saw on the last slide, additional costs and lack of trust are 2 pain points that deter consumers from converting on a site. So offering solutions to these pain points in the final email is kind of our concluding attempt to convert these users. So free delivery or a discount code could combat the additional cost pain point, and then including some customer reviews could potentially improve the trust aspect. Our third and final automated series that we recommend that every brand should start with is a win-back series. So as you can see here, research has shown that it costs up to 5 times more to find new customers than to keep the ones you already have. So while you're pumping money into lead generation, social media ads, an automated series like a win-back is crucial within a digital marketing strategy. We suggest having 3 emails within your win-back series. The first is used to let customers know that you've noticed they've been gone for a while. This can include some personalized product suggestions based on their past purchases or browsing behavior. The second offers an incentive to make another purchase, such as a discount or free shipping again. This email can also include product recommendations or new collections. The third and final email can take more of a customer service approach. It can include potentially a short survey to understand why that customer no longer shops with us, or it can provide subscribers with the opportunity to change their email preferences. This can be used as a way to gain consumer insights and potentially clean our mailing list if that's needed. So the last step in our 4-step success looks at optimizing the automations that we've set up. So often with automations, people will say that you can set them and forget them. But I suggest that, especially in the early stages of them going live, that you look to optimize them as much as possible. So no matter how much research you do before you start creating these email automations, you'll never really know exactly what's going to push your recipients to click through. This is where A/B testing your emails comes in. In an A/B test, you set up 2 variations of the same email, and then you will send them to a small percentage of your total recipients. Half the test group is sent version A, while the other half is sent version B. Then you compare the results based off a metric of your choosing, such as maybe open rate or click rate. And then the winning email version is then sent on to the remaining subscribers. So what can you A/B test? With email automations, the 4 main aspects that you can test include subject lines, email content, calls to action, and delays. So the first on the list here is subject lines. And this is probably one of the most important A/B tests that you can do. You all know how many emails land in your inbox every day. And often, if you're like myself, you will delete batches of emails without clicking in at all. And that's because subject lines matter a lot. 33% of email recipients open an email based solely on the subject line. So to be successful, start by thinking about the subject lines that you have opened recently in your own inbox. The best subject lines often include things like maybe asking a question or being specific, creating a sense of urgency, keeping your subject lines maybe short and using lowercase. Using personalization as well in subject lines has been found to increase open rates by 22.2%. So A/B tests could be as simple as finding out whether or not your subscriber responds better to the inclusion of an emoji in your subject line. Just gaining an understanding of what is more impactful to these customers as soon as something lands in their inbox is an incredibly important aspect of email marketing. Next, we have email content. So the content in an email is very business dependent. You need to understand your customer base and include content that you believe is interesting and valuable to them. Once you have established what's important to the segment that you're emailing, you can then A/B test maybe the structure, the color scheme, the theme, and many other aspects of the content to see which gains more clicks. Next, we look at calls to action. So A/B tests can compare even the smallest of details, such as the color and the placement of your call to action buttons, as well as the action word used. So as you can see from this example, the test on abandoned cart calls to action, the review cart was the preferred action word by recipients and therefore was used in emails going forward, as it definitely kind of gained more attention. Next, we have delays. So automations are sent out based on delays. With the abandoned cart emails that we looked at earlier, potentially maybe a 1-hour delay after someone has left something in their cart would be perfect for some businesses. But for others, it may need to be shorter or longer depending on the value and the type of product you are selling. So to find the perfect delay for your automations, it's best to A/B test to see which timing has the most impact. Another way of optimizing your email automations is by monitoring their key performance indicators and associated metrics. So your open rate is a great comparative metric to use with A/B testing. Your click-through rate gives you direct insight into how many people on your list are engaging with your content and interested in learning more about your brand or your offers. Your conversion rate shows you how successful your emails are at actually generating sales. So by regularly checking the reports generated by whatever email platform you're on, you can see how well or not so well your email automations are performing. So if you're looking again at that abandoned cart series, for example, the benchmark click rate is roughly 68%. So if your abandoned cart series is receiving significantly less than this, you know that there is something that needs to be improved and optimized going forward to make sure that this abandoned cart series is reaching its full potential. So now that you know how to optimize your automations, you're pretty much all set. So to quickly summarize our 4 steps to automation success. First, to implement a data capture method that suits your business. Secondly, so segment your subscriber lists using the categories of demographics, purchase data, behavior, and technology. Thirdly, set up core automations such as the welcome series, an abandoned cart series, and a win back series. And lastly, make sure you A/B test and monitor KPIs to ensure your automations are fully optimized. So thank you for listening. If you have any questions about what I've just gone through, please pop them into the comment box, the Q&A box below, and we'll go through them in the Q&A session. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Anik. Okay, so we have a few questions. There's a comments box below, but I'll start with a couple of questions to Anik. The first, well, there was two that came in, they were actually the same. It's to do with the timeline from the first email in the welcome series to the fifth. So, you know, would you send out the first one and then a week later and wait another week from between the second and the third, or more frequently? And there was a follow-up question, which is there a danger with such a volume of emails that the customers may unsubscribe?
Yeah, so I think those questions are definitely very tightly connected. So I wouldn't necessarily leave a week delay in between welcome emails. So what we would do is usually we would send out kind of the first one, obviously triggered straight after the person signs up, and then you could wait potentially 2 days to send them out the next one. And then the delays will get progressively longer through the email series. So the welcome series the full welcome series could go out, depending on your business, over 2 weeks or over 3 weeks. So they're not being inundated with emails constantly. And also you'd make sure that the kind of other email aspects that you're sending out, whether it be promotional or newsletters, aren't, you know, bombarding them on top of this. So you just need to make sure that you are setting up the correct delays to match your customers.
Great. There's another question. I'll stick with you, Anik. Can you recommend email marketing platforms or providers?
So we have used most of them, I think. Klaviyo is definitely the one that I feel is the most intelligent platform at the moment. It seems to have the most capabilities, and it has a lot of things like predictive analytics that can be used to really kind of up the ante in terms of your email marketing. So if I was going to suggest one, I think it would be Klaviyo.
Great. Okay. That is Klaviyo with a K for those who are interested. And there's another question just popped in here as well. A question about how you would link automated emails to your site for things like the abandoned cart series.
So the abandoned cart stuff is set up with your platform, with your e-commerce platform, and then we can tie it into that using your email platform. So your email platform is tied into the back end, say, of your Shopify or your Magento, and then it'll trigger it automatically.
Great. Okay. Thanks very much, Anik. Alan, there was a question that came in for you. How would an independent retailer use Shopbox AI to retain customers and compete with bigger brands such as Amazon or eBay on a limited budget?
Very good question. Yeah. So I really, what it comes down to for me is limited budget means risk. So what we don't want to do is invest in something without knowing that we're going to get value out the other side. So Rob, if you go back to what I said at the very start, our whole ethos is around removing barriers. So if you need to invest in a team, which you don't with Shopbox, you incur risk. So we reduce that.
Sorry, have we lost Alan?
I can't hear him.
Alan, we can't hear you at the moment. I don't think he minds. I'm sorry, I think we've lost Alan. So I'm just going to move over to another question that came in. The question was to do with VAT. So it was while Alan was talking about VAT price changes on e-commerce websites being updated to Shopbox, reminded this person about the upcoming VAT change. And they are wondering how others are preparing for it. I suppose the VAT change has been, the VAT change is due on September 1st. I assume most retailers know that the VAT is going to change from 23% on the 1st of September down to 21%, and that will stay in place until February the 28th. I would imagine that most retailers are going to take advantage of this and hold on to the 2%.
Hey guys, I think you've lost my audio. Can you hear me now?
Hi, Alan, we can. I'm just answering another question. We'll come back to you if that's okay.
Good, thanks.
Okay, thanks. So the VAT change, I would recommend that all retailers would look at their e-commerce site to ensure that they understand how VAT is currently implemented. The last VAT change was quite a while ago now, maybe 7 years ago or so. So I'd imagine that a lot of retailers haven't looked or considered how VAT is set up on their e-commerce stores. I would recommend that you do. Obviously, if you want to hold on to the VAT, and VAT is included in your price, you probably don't have any change to make. If you want to hand over the 2% saving to your customers, you'll need to reduce your prices accordingly, and so on. So I would definitely recommend that people look at their current setup. Any of our clients, of course, can contact us for any follow-on questions. Alan, we'll come back to you again on that original question about using. How does an independent retailer use Shopbox to retain customers and compete with bigger brands?
Sorry guys about my audio dropping off. Yeah, so Rob, look, this is all about the barriers that I mentioned earlier on. Our whole thing has been to reduce barriers. So for instance, we can get up and running really, really quickly. We typically implement in days. So that means that you can prove value very, very quickly. And the other thing that we do there is there's no, we can start with next to no cost on that, so that we prove value and we move on from there, because we're completely focused on making sure our stuff drives value at the end of the day. So that makes it really easy. There's no big, there's no big project. It's a simple hookup, and essentially everything else then happens on our side. So that's what we're trying to do to make it available to pretty much anybody who is working in online retail.
Great. We have another question here, follow on. For both Shopbox and Styla. We'll start with you, Alan. What e-commerce platforms do Shopbox and Styla work with? I believe I heard Magento mentioned,
yeah,
for Styla, but didn't notice a mention of Shopify.
Yeah, so look, we're on Magento. We're currently being put on Shopify. At the end of the day, what we've done is we've kept the front-end integrations to be completely agnostic of what the e-commerce engine is. So we can pretty much be put onto anything, BigCommerce as well, Shopware, whatever. It doesn't really make a difference to us in the way we work. So yeah, pretty much anything there.
Great, thanks very much, Alan. Chris, what about Styla?
Yeah, same situation. It's platform agnostic. We've got partnerships with all the main players, including Shopify. And if you've got a bespoke built site as well, we can integrate with that too.
Fantastic. One final, I think that's it for questions. If anybody else has a question, might just pop it in the Q&A session below. I'm just going to launch a poll just to see what people thought about the webinar, etc. One final thing to mention is Black Friday this year is looking like it's going to be the biggest one ever. Obviously, there's a lot of customers have shifted to online, and like buying online obviously also takes away the stress of going into the stores. Typically Black Friday would be very, very busy in store, depending on on how things are with the coronavirus, etc. I'm not sure how many people would be prepared to go in store for Black Friday sales and might be more interested in going online. So it'd be well worth everybody's while to review again their Black Friday strategy, Cyber Monday strategy, especially do any stress testing that might be needed and performance improvements ahead of that. So I think that is it. We've covered all the questions. If anybody else has anything that they would like us to follow up on, please do send in a question. We have one very quick one that came in here. For you, Chris, does it take long to integrate Styla onto a website?
Does depend a little bit in terms of requirements and how many sites we're setting it up for. But so we've had someone like Holland & Barrett launch in a couple of weeks, and some people it's a couple of months. It does depend on the complexity of it, and also sort of how many sites they're looking to implement it on. But somewhere in between sort of 2 weeks and 2 months, typically.
Okay, yeah. There's a bit of a distance there, but
bit of a range. If you think of sort of for typically for most merchants, it's around that sort of 6 to 8 week period, and that's typically only because of business readiness. Yeah. So someone like Holland & Barrett, they had the team ready there. It was done in-house, and we supported it in-house as well. That expedited that launch, but I think sort of 6 to 8 weeks is the sort of average.
Yeah, it sounds pretty realistic as well. I mean, it's 2 weeks. Implementing anything of that nature in 2 weeks is pretty fast. Yeah. So yeah, I think if you're prepared for a 6-8 week kind of a time frame, getting your content ready, preparing it, training up the staff, etc., getting the integration going, and so on. I know that we've done a number of improvements to the integration as well for Magento relating to search engine optimization and things like that. So, you know, it should be in good enough shape. Oh, there's another question. It was the same question for Shopbox. How long does it take, please? Alan, how long does Shopbox take to integrate?
Yeah, so it's basically a few days. I'll tell you exactly what that looks like. So the front end is very simple. Insert into the page. The guys at Studio 49 can do that for you. And that's typically just planning. Is you just getting it on the agenda is most of the work. It's not actually the physical work. And then it takes us 3 days to train our models. So we basically plug into your product catalog on the back end and train the models. That's a one-off piece of work. Again, that's a few hours worth of work, but about 3 days for us to train. So typically we can be up and running in a week or two. And yeah, technically it's very light.
Great. Okay. Thanks very much, everybody. I think we held on to everybody during the call. So I hope you all enjoyed the content. Just one very quick feedback on the poll. We did ask were people making changes to how they were going to invest following COVID-19. The COVID-19 lockdown has changed the investment strategy. I can tell you that pretty much across the board, the answer is yes. Only one person has no plans for changing investment strategy based on COVID-19. But you know, perhaps they already had a investment strategy that covered a lot of things we've talked about. So thanks everybody again. We'll send around the an email at a later point with the slides and so on. And I'd like to thank our panelists, Chris White of Styla, Alan Gormley of Shopbox, Anik, our own Anik of Studio 49. Thank you very much. And good day to everybody. Thank you.
Thanks guys, take care.
Thanks guys.
Bye.